Hello, and I am filming today from the other side of the world in Wollongong, Australia, and so I ask you to bear with me because I do not have my regular microphone, and so that you might hear some background noise, and I might be squinting more, but that's what life is all about. My last post was about 4.5 lessons that I have learned in my 45.5 years, and today I'm expanding on one piece of that, on the companions and relationships, because I get a lot of questions about healthy relationships and boundaries and the whole gamut of that. And so today my blog is on relationships. And are you in any relationships that are destructive and life-sucking? How about energy draining or critical? Why do you continue to interact with these people? If you're like the rest of us, we allow ourselves to believe that we're in these relationships for a number of reasons. We tell ourselves we have no other choice, or that the other person will never change, and that it's not that bad. We spend a lot of time making up stories as to why we stay in these relationships and take little action to change them. We live our days depleted by these people in our lives. The benefit of being an adult is that there is no reason for these relationships to continue as they are. I don't care who the person is, whether it is your spouse, your mother, there is no person. You're an adult. You have no reason for these relationships to continue as they are. That doesn't mean you move away or disconnect your phone. While you can do that, that is no guarantee that that relationship will stop sucking the life out of you. How do I know this? Think of the people that you know who still struggle, maybe even you, with someone or a piece of a relationship with someone who's dead. That person's dead, so it doesn't matter. You can move away, etc. But we can still struggle with people who are dead. Daughters are still waiting for approval from their deceased mom. Sons are still trying to prove themselves to their dead father. Further, you can continue to be affected by someone you haven't seen for years. Years. The critical sister, the uncle who touched you inappropriately. What gives them power over us if we don't interact with them? Our thoughts. Why is it important to think about our current and our past relationships? The health of our relationships forms the backbone of our physical, mental, and emotional health. Every piece of who we are today goes back to the relationships that we have. We are influenced by the people around us. In fact, research shows that in addition to our emotional health, our financial, physical, and mental health are the average of the 5 people we allow into our lives. They affect our spending and saving patterns, our self-esteem, our drinking and eating habits, even whether we're on prescription medication or not. It goes without saying, when you choose to live your life consciously, a piece of that must be consciously creating and maintaining healthy relationships. The backbone of healthy relationships? Healthy boundaries. Boundaries are a way that we take care of and protect ourselves. Boundaries are not something that we create for other people. We create them for us. Specifically, they're clear requests with a precise consequence. A healthy boundary is not made from a place of anger, and it's not an attempt to control the other person in the relationship. Oftentimes, the person doesn't even know there's a boundary unless they cross it. Imagine this, your house. Do you have a sign in your yard that says, if you break into my house, I will call the police? No. Yet, you have a boundary there. If someone does break in, you will call the police. In relationships, do you have to say to your father, if you criticize my husband, I will stick up for him? No. Yet, if your father criticizes your husband, you speak up. This requires 2 things. 1, to be clear on what a healthy relationship means to you, and 2, to not make your dad's behavior or anyone else's behavior mean anything more than his own expression of his issues. If he criticizes your husband, it's because of an insecurity of his. It's not about you. You're in charge of you, and your dad is in charge of him. If he continues to cross your boundaries, it is then up to you to clearly state what your boundaries are and their consequences. For example, you would tell your dad, if you criticize my husband at dinner, we will leave. Very clear. You're not trying to punish your dad, you're not trying to control your dad can do whatever he wants. You're just telling him that if he criticizes your husband, you will leave. Your dad can continue to act as he wishes. You're not trying to control his behavior. You're acting in alignment with your values, and your dad can do what he wants. This is very different than setting up a boundary from the emotion of anger, as then we're doing it to harm the other person. Here are some more examples of healthy boundaries. If you yell at me, I will leave the room. If you criticize me, I will hang up the phone. If you raise your voice to me, I will leave the dinner table. If you are more than 10 minutes late for our coffee date, I will leave. These are not mean things. You're not doing something to the other person. You are setting them up to protect yourself, protect your own. It's not about the other person. Telling your boss, if you criticize me, I will hang up the phone. Clear as day. They criticize you, hang up the phone. For all of these, you take responsibility for your actions and act in line with your values. You're not trying to control the other person, but leave the other person to do as they wish. If you have someone in your life who irritates you or causes frustration, a boundary is needed. That's if you have someone that you're irritated with, you always come home from being with them and you're just all fired up, that's a sign for you that a boundary is needed. You need to do some work. They don't have to change a thing. There are several steps to making a healthy boundary, but the first one is to step back and act as if you're examining the relationship from afar, like you're not a piece of it. The following story has helped me work through various relationships in my life, most notably the one with my birth parents, which is, for me, was the most challenging to work through and make some boundaries with. I was able to work through a lot of confusion, anger, and resentment in order to have a better relationship with them today than I ever have before in my life. Here's the story. Imagine you're walking through the woods and you see a cute dog tied to a tree. You approach the dog and pet it. It suddenly snarls and bites your hand. Your hand bleeds. You're confused and angry. You then notice the dog is caught in a trap. The situation is such that you cannot get the dog out of the trap. There's no question there. Do you keep going back to getting bit? Do you keep going back to the dog to get bit? For years, I did. I kept going back to the dog, aka my parents, expecting different behavior, expecting them not to bite me. However, I had only done half of the boundary homework. I had set the clear expectations, but I wasn't following through on my actions. Say I was saying, if you yell at me, I will get up from the dinner table. They would yell at me, I wouldn't get up from the dinner table. That's on me. I write that. I had said that if they yell at me, I would leave, but then I would stay. I said that if they criticized me, I would hang up. I wouldn't. I kept trying to pet that dog. I told myself that if I explained something one more time, they might get it. I kept expecting them to act differently. Seeing that they were caught in the trap was the first part of the solution. Seeing they were caught in the trap allowed me to lose my anger and confusion about why they were biting me. However, there were 2 more steps before I could heal. I had to understand that no matter what I said, no matter what I did, I could not get them out of that trap. That was and is up to them. Further, I had to realize that it is my responsibility and only my responsibility to choose whether I keep petting that dog or not. No matter how many people told me I should continue to pet the dog or that I should pet it in a certain way, it was up to me to take care of me. Does my hand still hurt? Some days, yes. Most days, no. When I think of my parents now, I feel compassion for them and for their situation. I can send love to that dog from afar while choosing to stay safe and out of the woods. I have not spoken to them for almost 2 years, yet feel more at peace in my relationship with them and love them more than at any point in my life. It feels just wonderful. They were the exact parents I was meant to have. There comes a point in difficult relationships where you either have to decide to keep petting the dog or to retreat to a safe distance. That does not mean you have to be as drastic as my situation with my parents. For some of you, this could mean less frequent phone calls or visits to your mother or mother-in-law. You cannot control what that other person does, but you always get to control what you do. If you don't call your mom, she is in charge of her own thoughts about you not calling. If you decide to travel somewhere else for vacation, she is in charge of her own thoughts about you not coming to see her. There is freedom, such freedom in knowing that you cannot control another person because it's exhausting to try. One person can change a relationship. I did with my parents and with other relationships, but that was the hardest one for me, as I said. If you're unhappy, it's up to you. You're responsible for your happiness, not this other person. The reason you're frustrated and resentful is because you don't have proper boundaries and you haven't been speaking your truth. When you own that and you really take it on as your responsibility, from that place, you can clean up your emotions. Once I could see my biological family with compassion, I was able to drop my anger, my sadness, and the disappointment that I had. I can empathize that they are the way they are, and at the same time, I can powerfully live the life I'm here to live. I'm moving forward, and I am also, in moving forward, I am choosing a different path for my children. I have drawn the line in the sand. I will not inherit dysfunction. I choose to teach my children that they are in charge of who they surround themselves with. I show them how I surround myself with like-minded people who fill my soul. My life has a lot less drama and a lot more peace. I'm feeling emotional because I am here in Australia and I have my kids with me. Never thought I'd be in this situation, but it's because of the hard work I did with that dog in the woods and choosing my boundaries and choosing who I spend my time around to be at this place of supreme happiness and peace. Setting clear boundaries is some of the hardest work that you will do, but it will influence not only the quality of your life, but the length of it. As I often do, I encourage you to choose conscious living. Please pause to evaluate your relationships. How are you showing up in them? If your relationship involves a parent or emotional or physical abuse, please don't navigate this on your own. Get a coach to help you stop going back to pet that dog. I've coached many clients who set boundaries and their dog chose to get out of the trap on their own. Talk about freedom. Here are some powerful questions to ask yourself regarding your relationships. Are you feeling the way you want to feel when you're with this person? Are you behaving the way you want to behave? How do you want to be around this person? What do you want to think about this person or about this relationship with him or her? I challenge you to answer some of those questions, and if you have any relationships that are bringing you stress on a routine basis, it's up to you. Take charge, guys. Happy day.